The charge went off at 7:14 in the morning, right on schedule. The snow released from the north face exactly the way it was supposed to. A clean fracture line, a controlled slide, nothing Nate hadn't seen 50 times before. He watched through his binoculars from the trigger point, logging the debris field, estimating volume. Professional, routine. Then something moved inside the slide, not thrown by it, not tumbling the way a tree limb or a deadfall log would tumble. It moved with the snow, parallel to the slope, keeping pace. And when the slide stopped spreading and the cloud settled and everything was still again, it wasn't there anymore. Nate stood on the ridge for a long time, binoculars up, not writing anything. He'd been stationed at the Bridger Basin forecasting post for 4 winters. The job was simple in concept, brutal in execution. 7 days on, 7 days off. Alone on a mountain no one else had any reason to be on. Every morning he took snowpack measurements across 6 test sites, logged temperature gradients, sent weather data to the regional office. Every afternoon, he evaluated terrain stability and logged preliminary forecasts. The control charge was Thursday's work, and Thursday had been going fine until it wasn't. The cabin sat at 9,200 feet, a squat, insulated structure bolted to the rock, generator powered, with a radio that worked most of the time, and a satellite uplink that worked less than that. The nearest road was 11 miles east, accessible by snowmobile in clear conditions. Nobody came up unless there was a reason. Nate liked that about the job. He wasn't a people person. He was a mountain person. He'd found the first tracks 2 days before the charge, on his approach to Test Site 3. A single impression in the windpack, roughly oval, roughly the size of a dinner plate. He'd thought, elk. Then he'd looked at it more carefully. It was too uniform. No toe indentations, no pad structure, no claw drag. Just a smooth depression with compressed edges. He made a note and kept moving. The second track was 10 feet from the first, then 12, then 14. Stride length increasing. He measured the last one before moving on. 22 inches between impressions. Smooth and featureless, like a fist pressed down through the crust. He didn't find where the tracks ended. They went into the snow, not across it, about 60 yards from Site 3. The crust was unbroken on every side of the last impression, as if whatever made them had simply gone down. He told himself it was frost heave, told himself it was gas expansion from decomposing matter beneath the snowpack. He was good at telling himself things. Wednesday, he crossed the flat between the cabin and Site 5. 100-yard open traverse with 3 feet of settled base beneath his skis. He was 2/3 across when he heard it. A sound from directly below him. A low, wet displacement, like something large turning over in standing water. But there was no water. There was bedrock under that snowfield, and 3 feet of compacted winter between him and it. He stopped, stood completely still. The sound moved, slowly, forward, then north, then nothing. He waited 6 minutes before he felt like he could breathe normally. Then he skied the rest of the traverse at a pace he'd later be embarrassed to admit. That night, he reviewed his site data and found the temperature logs at Site 3 were elevated, not by much, 2 degrees Celsius warmer in the mid-pack than they should have been. He logged it as anomalous compaction and closed the tablet. After the charge on Thursday, he stood on the ridge for a long time. Then he went back to the cabin and sat with the radio without calling anyone. What would he say? Friday was his final measurement day. 6 sites, data to compile, and a satellite uplink window at 1600 hours he could not miss. The regional office needed the Friday forecast by 1700, and if he didn't transmit, a rescue check would be triggered by Saturday morning. He didn't want anyone on this mountain right now. He suited up at 0900 and moved out. Sites 1 and 2 were clean. He moved efficiently, logged quickly, kept his breathing steady. He was aware that he was being careful about something he couldn't name. Holding his pulse down, working without hurrying, not letting himself think too hard about the flat between sites 4 and 5. Site 3 was clean. Site 4 was clean. He stood at the edge of the flat and looked at it. 100 yards of open snowfield, blue-white and still, nothing moving. The temperature had dropped overnight, and the crust was firm and the sky was pale and high and without character. There was no wind. He skied out onto the flat. He was 40 yards in when the snow moved. Not a collapse, not anything structural. A single point of disturbance, 15 feet to his left, the crust buckling inward and then outward as something pressed up from below. He stopped, turned his head slowly, did not allow himself to hurry. It surfaced 2 seconds later. The head came first, pale, elongated, laterally compressed, like a face that had been very slowly squeezed from both sides over a long period of time. Where eyes would have been, there was nothing. Smooth membrane, flush with the surrounding tissue, no sockets, no structure. Below that, in the lower third of the face, 2 vertical slits, deep and dark, flaring rhythmically. Nostrils, smelling the air. The arms followed. Each one bent at 3 points, not 2, 3. The extra joint sitting midway down the forearm, folding the limb at an angle that made the whole thing look like it had been broken and badly set. Long fingers spread flat against the snow. It was on the surface now, crouched, motionless. Its body was very narrow. It had come up through a hole barely large enough to fit a person's head. 2 full seconds passed. Then the nostrils flared wide and the head swung toward him. Nate did not move. His heartbeat was, he made it, steady, even. He had been on this mountain long enough to know what panic felt like from the inside, and he refused to make it. He stood on his skis and breathed in 4 counts and out 4 counts, and looked at a point slightly above the creature's head, at the ridgeline behind it, at the absolute stillness of the winter sky. The head turned, slowly, away from him, then back toward him. The nostrils working. It was reading something. It wasn't certain. Nate stood completely still for 41 minutes. He knew the count because he watched his uplink window tick forward on his GPS unit, 1 minute at a time, without moving his head. Just his eyes. At minute 42, it went back down. The snow closed over it like water closing over a stone. He skied Site 5 and Site 6 and uploaded his final data at 15:58 hours, 2 minutes inside the window. His fingers were numb and his right knee had locked up from standing motionless on a flat, and he had not let himself think once about what was moving below the snow as he crossed the second traverse. The regional office confirmed receipt at 16:02. He went back to the cabin and sat in the chair nearest the door with his skis still on for 3 hours. It was dark by then. He listened to the snow shift in the wind and tried to determine which sounds were structural and which were not. At midnight, he took off the skis. In the morning, the snowmobile ride out was 11 miles. He averaged 12 miles an hour. He did not look down once. When he filed his week's report, he noted anomalous mid-pack temperature readings at Site 3 and recommended follow-up thermal survey by remote sensor. He did not note the tracks. He did not note the flat. He didn't know how to log something that went down instead of across. He requested indoor reassignment the following week. His supervisor denied it and told him the mountain needed coverage through March. He's back up there now,